This video is for educational purposes only. Everything that's discussed is confidential, and that's it. Hi, Lori. It's good to see you again. How have you been?
I'm good, thanks.
Good. It's been a couple months since the last time we talked.
Right.
And the last time we talked, you were kind of questioning whether or not now was a good time to go to law school. You'd recently been accepted. So is that what you want to talk about today, or is there something else on your mind?
Well, I have another issue on my mind right now involving school.
Okay.
So I have a friend who I've come to learn has a prescription drug abuse problem.
Okay.
And she's not discussed it with me.
Okay.
But she's very open about the drug usage. And I have an obligation to report behavior, especially of another wannabe lawyer. And so I'm struggling with how to report confidentiality and
Right.
not without
Messing up your friendship, maybe?
Exactly,
Yeah.
thanks.
So you have like a legal obligation being a potential lawyer, but on the other side, you're her friend.
Right.
Is that what I'm hearing you say? So really the struggle between knowing what really you need to do, but being able to sleep at night, so to speak.
Right.
Because what would be some of the ramifications when or if you make a decision to report this? What are some of the ramifications that you feel would happen to your friendship or to her school or her professional career? What would be some of the things that would happen?
Well, for me, nothing would happen to me. If I report it, nothing happens to me.
Okay.
I lose a friendship.
Right.
If I don't report it, and they know I don't report it, then I face violations from the disciplinary board.
Okay. So it's a bigger risk, friendship aside, although I know from our past discussions that you do value your friends. While that's important, really what it could do to you in a professional sense sounds like to me like you're saying it outweighs the consequences of losing a friend. Am I hearing you right?
Yes, except that it's a lot easier to say it. When you lay it out and you write it out on paper and balancing what you should do, it seems so obvious to report it. At the same time, it's I don't want to be a snitch in the legal community. I don't want to be that person. And quite honestly, I don't really like how the rule is written. And I think it'd be much better for me to recommend that she see somebody and discuss this with somebody than forcing that obligation on me.
So is that not an option within the school system that there could be some kind of anonymous reporting that then a counselor can check into? It's just the law says it's your responsibility and you have to deal with it if you know about it?
Right, and you have to divulge your name, so there's no confidential reporting.
Wow, I can see where that would be difficult, because whether, it's kind of almost putting you, I would think it's almost putting you up on a level that you don't feel really is your sole responsibility, that someone else, maybe in a different professional situation, should be handling or approaching with her. How long has how long have you been aware of this situation?
Well, I've actually kind of confronted her about it, like indirectly, and apparently this started for her when she was in college, an undergrad.
Okay.
And she was in a sorority and was focused on being skinny, and so was using Adderall equivalents to maintain her physique.
So she didn't need the medicine. What she's told you, she didn't need that medication for attention issues or to help her focus with school. It was strictly to lose weight or to maintain a certain appearance.
Right.
Wow.
But now it's switched, because now it's because of the intensity of law school and the amount of reading and testing going on. She uses it to stay awake, but she doesn't have a prescription for it. And so, I actually see her consulting with other friends, asking for the drug.
Okay, so is there are you aware of, like, there's kind of an underworld drug market of
There is, right.
graduate students or law students who need, I've read some studies about that, I don't personally have experience with knowing about it when I was in grad school, but I have heard about that. Do you feel that that's pretty prevalent on your campus?
Right. I mean, quite honestly, if I were to ask any one person at school, within 2 asks, I could get the drug myself.
Wow, wow.
So, and it's a whole different world for me because,
Yeah.
I grew up in a different environment. And
Right.
So it's shocking to me that people are so open and honest about a drug issue.
Right. What do you think, what's your gut feeling telling you that you need to do? Have you kind of set an agenda or laid out? I know you said, putting it on paper is easy and it makes it look like it's a clear-cut decision, but you struggle with, what you've told me is you struggle with the fact that you don't really feel it's your responsibility. You don't want to ruin your future reputation as a lawyer by being a snitch, or known as that. Do you really feel that information would get out? Or is it just the fact that because your name was on it?
Oh, I know it would be.
Really?
I know it would be disclosed, and that makes me a little bit uncomfortable. Where I am kind of currently is trying to get herself to recognize the problem and perhaps self-report herself. That kind of alleviates the responsibility.
It takes that pressure off of you.
Right.
What about if she had a prescription back in college and undergraduate? Could she go to a doctor and talk to the doctor about needing some help? Have you been able to broach that subject with her?
Well, I have, and I think the turning point for me was, well, at first when she was discussing this, I kind of thought, being a non-traditional student, and I was kind of being prude about it, and I would, as long as it wasn't really affecting me, then I was kind of going to let it slide, and as long as it was, I noticed as long as it wasn't affecting her, I wasn't going to confront it. But recently, she found out that my son takes Adderall and asked if I could give her some.
Oh, wow.
So,
wow. That's really crossing the boundaries of a friendship. It puts you in an even more difficult position.
And I'm in a position where, I could,
Sure.
It's very easy for me to do that. However, one, I wouldn't do it. And two, I kind of feel put out almost by her even crossing that boundary. And I'm in a position where I've been just lying to her.
I was going to say, what did you say when she asked you that? And has she since then, to follow up, has she since then continued to ask you about it?
No, after she's asked twice, and on both occasions I closed it by saying, the first time I said he doesn't have any, the next time I said he's no longer on it.
Okay.
So that kind of
shut her down. Okay.
But I don't know, it just makes me uncomfortable, and it wasn't until I did a stint at MD Anderson, and I was seeing a number of kids who have drug abuse problems, and this is a total aside, but I saw the excuses that they were providing to the physicians, and then the physicians later telling me that this was an excuse mechanism. For example, dogs eating their prescription, or
spilling it
or losing it, or it's always putting the blame on somebody else. And I've seen her demonstrate that exact behavior multiple times, and I've even confronted her about it in a hypothetical about what I saw when I was working there, saying, you have a drug abuse problem, and it's kind of, I'm not sure if it's fallen on deaf ears or...
So where does your relationship with this person stand today?
I really distanced myself from her, and I'm at a point where I don't respond to her text, I don't respond to her phone calls anymore, and I'm just kind of trying to be as remote as possible and hoping that I can wean that relationship.
And if you were to wean that relationship, and it sounds like you're doing the right things to put distance between you, do you still have the obligation?
Yeah, that's kind of where it all comes back to, is I still have the obligation, but I'd rather encourage her to self-report than...
Well, and I think that you're going about it the right way. You're removing yourself from the situation. You're certainly taking your family out of the situation because she tried to come into that, situation with your son. but I think that you need to continue the process. In fact, I would even give you some homework over the next couple weeks until we see each other again, that you really have some sit-down talks with her, really trying to convince her, because if she's at the same level as you are in school,
Right.
so she's embarking on a whole new adventure of taking the bar and finding employment. And my homework to you would be that you talk to her very personally, without anybody else around, no other friends around, and ask her what it is that she wants for her future. Have her look at this road that she's on right now, which sounds kind of like it's spiraling downhill. You certainly have a lot of tough things. As if law school wasn't tough enough, you still have a lot more to do with passing the bar and then finding a job. And ask her kind of what it is that she's wanting this next phase or next chapter of her life to be. See what she says from that, and then offer her assistance through maybe some of your contacts for particular counselors. You can certainly give her my name. You can, maybe Trevor has some, your husband, he could recommend some counselors, so that there's another professional that's seeing her that will then take you out of the loop. And I would be happy to talk to her or Trevor and some of his contacts that he has in the medical community. I know would be wonderful. And then come back and talk to me. If you have a question before that, come back or give me a call and talk to me. Let me know kind of where she's at. And, I don't think you're going to go into one session with her and have her say, oh, okay, I've made that mind up. I'm not false in thinking that that's reality. But maybe some of the obstacles that she presents to you, I could give you some questions and answers to kind of overcome that scenario that she's presenting. And then we can just continue to work on this to see if that you can be at peace with it, that you can make the right choice, but ultimately that she can get the help that she needs. Does that sound like a plan?
Sounds great.
Great. We'll talk again soon. Thanks for coming in.